Summer routines live or die by how easy they are, and honestly, if something takes too much effort, I'm out. That's why Groons is my go-to. It's my one daily pack of gummies covering my greens, vitamins, and minerals. Plus, it has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber, which is more than 2 cups of broccoli. No mixing powders, no giant pills, no hassle. I just rip open the pack and I'm done. They taste good and they make it easy to stay on top of my health, even when life gets busy. Save up to 52% with the code PODCAST at Groons.co. That's code PODCAST at GRUNS.co.
It's the Go Gopher Podcast with Mike Grimm, episode number 224. I am Mike Grimm, voice of the Golden Gophers, and welcome back to our podcast. We're thrilled to have a return visit from Golden Gopher head football coach PJ Fleck on this week's Go Gopher Podcast. He joins me about this time every year as the players are now back on campus. They're starting summer school and beginning summer workouts. We'll hear from the head coach about that and so much more. We'll get an off-season edition of Gopher football chatter here on the Go Gopher Podcast. Head coach PJ Fleck will be along soon. Our Go Gopher Podcast is presented by alumni-owned Sunbelt Business Advisors and True North Mergers and Acquisitions. If you're a business founder planning to exit your business, start by contacting Sunbelt Business Advisors and True North Mergers and Acquisitions. Sunbelt serves more businesses up to $5 million in revenue than anyone, and True North M&A serves companies with revenues up to $150 million. Get a confidential, no-cost, no-obligation business valuation started today. Hey, make the most of your life's work. Visit sunbeltminnesota.com or tnma.com today. And there's not a bigger PJ Fleck supporter than Brian Slipka from True North. Longtime sports supporter Cub is also a proud sponsor of the Go Gopher Podcast. In a hurry, don't worry, Cub delivers. Get fresh meat, produce, and everyday essentials and more delivered to your door. Cub is the official grocer of the Golden Gophers and proud to support Gopher athletics for over 20 years. Shop happy. The Go Gopher Podcast is also presented by onX Maps. Find out how to download the onX Hunt app for free by listening to this week's Go Gopher Podcast. We're podcasting episode 224 from the Aquarius Home Services studio. We invite you to subscribe or follow the Go Gopher Podcast. It's free to do so. You can go back and listen to the Go Gopher Podcast from previous weeks. Last week, for example, we had a terrific conversation with the all-time winningest quarterback in program history, Tanner Morgan. He gave us his assessment of the approaching Golden Gopher football season, gave us an update on what he's up to now, and yes, took us down memory lane. If you missed it, go back and have a listen. It was fantastic. This week, we continue talking Golden Gopher football with Minnesota head football coach PJ Fleck. He'll join me next.
I'm Clay Geary, walk-on turned scholarship wide receiver for Gopher football.
And I'm Ben Utek, U of M alumni, Super Bowl champion, and Tony Dungy Uncommon Award winner.
We understand championship culture, which is why we're part of the True North family of companies.
True North invests in only elite teams, like the champion team at Sunbelt Business Advisors, Minnesota's largest seller of companies. To learn more about True North and our diverse family of independently owned companies, visit TrueNorthEquityPartners.com.
This is Jim Suhan for TSR Injury Law, 612 TSR Time. TSR Injury Law started off as a small business. They are now a large, very successful business because they help people, because they win cases. If you are injured, call 612 TSR Time. They will help you out or point you in the right direction. They will not charge you unless they win your case, and they win a lot of cases. We don't want you to need their help. They don't want you to need their help. But if you do need their help, call 612 TSR Time.
It's episode 224. It's our annual visit to PJ Fleck's office, and it's comfy. It's a nice warm day outside, cool inside. We've done this usually after spring ball, 3-4 years now. Good to see you, Coach.
It's great to see you, too, man. Got a new look.
Yeah.
You look amazing.
I went the PJ Fleck route. I'm like, it's enough of fooling yourself thinking you have enough hair, and so, yeah, we're shaving the top now.
I like it, man.
Yeah.
Pretty trendy.
Yeah, it's trendy. And, now that I've been doing it, like I should have done it 5-6 years ago instead of thinking that I had just enough up there.
Well, I remember when I shaved it, like bicked it, right? So like to the skin. The first year I was here, I actually just kind of buzzed it.
Yeah.
Right? And then just kind of kept a little bit. And I thought it looked worse. So I was like, and Heather even said that too. So then I went completely down to the scalp and do it every day, and I love it.
Here we are.
Low maintenance and cheap haircuts.
You sunscreen then when you're out on practice field? I mean, because that's my issue. I either have to wear a hat or just sunscreen. So.
Yeah, but we do live in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So I always look at like the sun right now as like we don't really have the sun and go outside for about 5 to 6 months.
Yeah.
Let alone like when it gets summertime, I don't feel like I'm a strong. This is just the football coach speaking, right? This is not. Please do not take advice on this for medical. But I'm like, I need as much vitamin D as I can get in the summertime.
Yeah,
so
soak it in.
But yeah, I always put sunscreen on. But yeah, I'm not a big hat guy, so I'm just sunscreen it up and get a little bit tanner.
Yeah. Well, here we are. I was thinking about this. First thing I wrote down, year 10 now you're entering.
It's crazy.
10 years.
I don't even know if the university knows that, so don't tell them. 10 years.
Here we are. I suppose there are days where it feels like it's not been 10 years, and there are probably days where it might feel like it's been 20 years, right?
Yeah, truly. People ask me all the time, does it feel like 10 years? And I'm like, I'm not sure what that question means. But, yeah, it feels like 10 years. It feels like 10 years because you put a lot of work, blood, sweat, and tears into the profession, and you've watched it grow. I think the one thing is the players that come back who have kids, and you're like, holy cow, you have 2 to 3 children, and I just coached you, let alone go back to Western Michigan. And you're starting to see even some of those guys. Maybe they're bringing kids to your little kids camp, and you're like, man, it feels like that's when it feels like it's been 10 years when you start to see your former players come back, and you think about the years they were here. But a lot of work, a lot of changes in college football, obviously. But I tell you what, every day's just as exciting as it was from the first day, that's for sure.
And you were a head coach at a young age, so even 10 years in here, and what would it be, 14 now total or 15 total, you're still a relatively young guy. Do you, in the changing landscape of things, and I'm not asking you to make any broad statements or any specific statements, but do you think that in today's landscape, coaches are going to be able to do what Mac Brown did or Bobby Bowden did or Joe Paterno did and coach for 40, 50, 60 years?
My pop-up says no. I think that I've had an advantage of being a really young head coach where you're in 14 years and I'm only 45 years old.
I mean, you could be you could coach 40 or 50 years if you choose to.
Well, I'm probably going to be divorced again then. Heather's made it very clear if he's still coaching past 15 more years, then we're going to have a serious talk. But, you know, I think for me, I really enjoy it. I enjoy the competition. I enjoy the players. I enjoy the kids. I think so many people are going a different direction of they're not having as much fun in that because it's becoming so much transactional relationships versus transformational relationship. And, you know, we've gone even heavier in the life program, more than even we were before the portal and NIL and paying players. And I think we've gotten a major return on our investment. And, of course, every program's always going to want more money to be able to spend. But I think we have a really unique niche about how we do it, who we do it with. I think that it's becoming clearer who fits here with every year that passes and all the new changes in college football. And I think we're listening to that more than we ever have. And it's a lot more fun to be able to do that. And the educational pieces isn't just the football and the life pieces turn into the financial pieces. And, of course, it has its challenges, but you know, I love what I do, and I have a lot of energy doing it. I always said, until I don't have any energy doing it, then I won't do it. But when you have energy doing it, and you love it, and you still have that relationship with the players, and that camaraderie, and that connection, and that team vibe, and football is really still important. Just because certain things are happening at different schools doesn't mean that's happening here. And I judge my life based on what's happening here. I mean, it is a circus across the country right now. We all know that. I just feel like we're not that, and it's fun to coach in.
Yeah, and because I think how you've been able to have the life program, and it's a specific fit for a lot of these guys, the retention in this day and age has been pretty strong, right? I mean, most everyone you want to keep, you've kept, right?
Yeah, we have one of the better retention rates in the country, and we're really, really proud of that. Doesn't mean you're going to keep everybody. You know, I mean, that's one, if a kid's not going to be able to play, we're very transparent and honest about that when we have our end of the year conversations, and I hope our players respect that piece because they want to play. people want to play.
And that's part of why the portal started, right?
That's exactly why. For all the healthy reasons that if a kid's not going to play somewhere, let that kid go somewhere without a penalty and go play. Have a great college experience. Play the game that you love. Nothing's worse than working so hard in this 12 months out of the year in this sport and not ever seeing the field. I mean, that's hard because you're not getting that reward of the hard work, and which isn't promised. But I think our retention rate's been really good. Look at the team that we have coming back. There's a lot of guys. One who could have went to the portal, could have made a lot more money, and one could, and three could have went to the NFL and made a lot of money too. So, but to bring them back because of what we do and how we do it says a lot about the program culture, and even the camaraderie or the consistency and the cultural sustainability that Mark Coyle and I have had with running the football program.
In this day and age, we talked about, coaches coach for a long time. I suppose the calendar is so crazy, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of that and some of the rules. But last year when we did this, and we sat here, because you were up against a hard time, at the very end, I said, hey, what have you guys done this summer? And you said, we went to Italy and we watched the smoke and the Pope got approved and all this stuff. And so we didn't get to talk a lot about it, which to me was, at the end of the day, maybe the most interesting thing of the whole podcast last year. So I'm going to start with that. Did you get some decompression time? Did you and Heather get to go anywhere for some vacation time, relaxation, anything as fun as watching the smoke come out for the Pope?
Not yet. We're going. We are. We're gonna take a trip to Croatia. It's our 10-year anniversary, so we're going to go all out. Go to Croatia. We hear it's absolutely beautiful. If anybody knows where Croatia is, you got Italy. And the east side of Italy, go up to the Adriatic Sea, and then that separates that in Croatia. So Croatia's west bank has the Adriatic Sea, and then the east bank of Italy kind of share the Adriatic Sea. So it's got to be really similar. We loved Italy, and we're going back to Paris as well on the way there. Yeah. Because people don't know, I took Heather before we were married and went to Paris because we actually had a friend that kind of sent us there. It's very wealthy friend, sent us to Paris. Some people, get sent to dinner. We got sent to Paris, and we went to a fancy restaurant, and it's called Le Cinq, and it's in the Four Seasons King George's restaurant. And we both. This is back in the Western Michigan days, and we're dating, and I don't have a ton of money, and she's making more money than I am at this point, and it's so funny because we kind of sit down and we're like, all right, I can't believe you sent us here. This is a really fancy dinner, and we're talking 5-star everything. Well, the champagne cart comes around, and I was like, wow, champagne cart. I mean, they're wheeling around. It's got 20 champagnes on it. We're like, yeah, we'll do one of those. Bonjour, enjoy. Blah, blah, boom, we drink that. It comes around again. We're like, hey, we'll do it again. I mean, absolutely. I mean, fill her up now. Except in Home Alone, when he's on the plane, he goes, it's free, isn't it? Fill her up. Yeah. Fill her up, right? And long story short, I get the menu. And in Paris, I don't know if they still do this, but over a decade ago, this is what they did. The men get the menus with the prices, and the women get the other menu with no prices. Heather's looking at the menu going, oh, man, this is amazing. And then I'm looking at the menu, and I am hyperventilating.
You're like, not that amazing.
I am literally hyperventilating because it starts with the champagne cart.
Oh, you see that right away, yeah.
It doesn't matter which champagne you picked on that cart. It was all hundreds of dollars per glass. And I am sweating at this point because now this guy who's trying to wine and dine his girlfriend / fiance is sitting there saying, okay, I have to make it a mission here. There's one thing you have to get. She's like, well, I can order what I want to order. I mean, it's okay. You don't have to tell me what to order. I said, you need to get the cheese plate.
Yeah.
The cheese plate. And it's still over $100 and some for a cheese plate. And I got this little steak. She's like, listen, it's okay. I explain what's going on. She's like, I can literally fake being sick right now. I can fake, throwing up. We'll just take off. We'll leave some money on the table and head out. And I was like, no, we're going to do this. So I got this tiny little steak. It came out. I didn't know whether to cut it into 2 pieces or 4 pieces. She got the cheese cart, came around, and I'm like, okay, well, at least she got a cart. Nope. They picked these half-ounce pieces, and she only got 4 little half-ounce pieces. We have this great picture of her 4 little tiny pieces of cheese and my tiny little piece of meat, and we must have spent $1,500 on this dinner.
Oh, my gosh.
And literally went afterwards and got some pizza after dinner. And that was it. And I promised her, I said, one day I'm going to bring you back here. We're going to come to the exact restaurant when we can afford it. We're going to have an elite dinner.
We're going to get real food.
We're going to get real food. So here we are.
That's his trip.
We're stopping there first, and then we'll go to Croatia.
That's amazing. Well, we'll look forward to a report on that trip and how that restaurant was. My daughter actually next week she's in Estonia right now, and she's going to Croatia next week as part of some travel for her job. So yeah.
Well, Dubrovnik has like Game of Thrones where that was filmed, so I'm really excited to see that. And then we're kind of going on that east coast or the west coast of Croatia. Just hitting a bunch of different islands, so it should be pretty cool.
I think the Gopher women's basketball team went to Greece and Croatia. Was it last summer or the summer before? And some of the interviews I did with those ladies they said it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's what I hear. We'll see. I'll let you know.
Know what happy is? Veggies. Crunchy, crispy, colorful, seasonal, aromatic, juicy veggies. Produce at its freshest. Cub produce. Best produce, period. Guaranteed to make you happy or will replace it. No questions asked. Because good produce makes veggie lovers happy. Just remember, fresh, happy. Stale, limp, and wilted, not happy. You want to make a veggie lover happy? Shop Cub for produce. And shop happy.
Well, let's talk about spring first. What questions about your team do you think you got answered through the spring period?
Well, I think there was so many guys that were here for spring, which is really healthy in developing a football program. You're not worrying about the portal that's coming up, the second portal. You don't have that anymore. I think with any football team, you always want to find out when it gets hard, what's their response, whether it's individual, whether that is a position or whether that's offense and defense or your entire team. When it gets really difficult, what response does that team give? And what I was really impressed with holistically from our entire team, this is probably the hardest spring we've had since I've been at the University of Minnesota. By design, the way we tackled, the way we practiced, the way we scrimmaged, the length of practices, very different than just our 90-minute kind of practices. But we knew what we had to do because we had to find out so much about this football team before we get to training camp. And I felt like their responses to the hard was really, really good. I mean, this team loves ball. They love to practice. They're very well connected. They hang out with each other outside of football, probably more than most teams that I've ever had. And they're very talented. There's some positions we've got to be able to get some answers to, especially when you get past maybe the number one player at that position. Interior D-line is going to be really big for us. When you look at the depth at the linebacker position, who's going to win those jobs. Even when you look at even the running back job, who's going to be healthy, who are those young players are going to make a name for themselves this year, like usually a freshman does every year here at the University of Minnesota, which is really healthy. So, and then you have the specialist competitions, especially with the field goal kicker, which is going to be big for us too.
You mentioned the linebackers. I thought a couple of those guys flashed in the spring game, running like crazy, making tackles. And I think 3 of them are in the same recruiting class, and then Carrier's maybe a year older. Is that right? And then you got Maverick, who's kind of the leader of that. So how do you assess the linebacker group with that young talent of guys just flashing? I thought anyway in the spring game.
It's one of my favorite position groups I've ever had in coaching, and that's such a compliment to Mariano Sori-Marin.
Yep.
The connection he has with his linebackers, the type of coach he is, the environment he creates within his position. It's identical to him as a player. So if anybody wonders what it's like to play for Mariano, just imagine him as a player, and it's pretty similar. And you see that in the DNA of the players, the competition with each other every day, the camaraderie they have, the work ethic they have. But you can see that Maverick's Maverick. Maverick's played a lot of football. Matt Kingsbury's played a lot of football for us. But the Ethan Stendals, the Mason Carriers, the Emmanuel Carmos, and you can even see the young guys.
Like
Nate Cleveland.
Cleveland was all over the field.
Nate Cleveland had one of the better spring practices out of any young players that we've had here. So it's solely such there's so much competition within there, which is really healthy because it's going to feed over into different creative defensive packages. It's going to feed into special teams. It's a very violent position. We know that people get dinged up and banged up, but it's probably top to bottom the best linebacker position we've had here at the University of Minnesota, from top to bottom, depth-wise, that we've had. And as far as the connection of the group, I haven't seen it like that in a long time.
When you have a depth like that and talent, and you talk about, I think all teams now are these emerging packages and sub-packages, and when it's third and whatever, this is what we're going to do, and all this stuff, which I'm always amazed by looking down, and it's, one coaches yell out a word or two, and they know who's coming in and coming out. What's the sweet spot of you want to take advantage of that, but you maybe don't want to get so complicated that you're not your best? Like, is it better to practice a few things and be great at it, or is it better to show a bunch of looks but not maybe get to work as much on each look? Is there a sweet spot there?
We always believe here in simple us, complex you, where it might sound like it's a lot, but it really isn't.
Gotcha.
And especially when you're doing it out of different personnel groupings and packages. We want a lot of things to look the same. And then after the snap, it creates a completely different look for the quarterback. Depending on down and distance and teams that we're going to play, the ability to have those types of bodies on the field who all can run, who all can hit, who all can cover, that helps us in certain situations, certain packages. So Danny Collins has done a great job of making our defense simpler, but also at the same time adding more. And I think there's a big challenge of that, because I think that goes into how good of a teacher are you, and then how smart are your players. Our players are incredibly intelligent. They love ball. They work so hard in the unrequired. We can work with them so much more than we ever been able to work with them, Grimm. With January and February,
Yep.
March, April, spring ball. In the summertime, we can work with them until we go out for vacation. You get them in training camp, and training camp's still long. I still think that needs to be changed. We need to blow up it all of it and start over. We're adding things that don't make a lot of sense to the new world of college football. But it's a full-time job for these guys, and they've fully committed to it. But I love also how we just haven't gone like wholesale changes in systems. And I think when you have to make that decision as a head coach, it's good for the kids to keep retaining, developing, growing, mastering within the program. When you're changing it all the time, all you're doing is just relearning something. But I don't think you ever get to that mastery stage, that black belt. I don't think you get to that point. You're just getting good at some new things, but we want them to get to mastery level, and I think our defensive coaches do a great job of that.
Yeah, that's been a theme whenever I interview guys all the way back from, your first year, and think of guys like Mariano and Newbin and how they, Thomas Barber even talking about how you watch film and and you find tendencies and you know what to expect, and then those guys pass it on down to the next guys, and then talk to guys. When I got here as a freshman, they said film study, and I didn't know, but now I know, and you learn it, and that's the extra stuff you're talking about, right?
It's the unrequired. I mean, the NCAA, which, pretty popular right now with all the rules, say you can do a lot of things, right? And you can do things within these hours, and that's fine. But the elite people and the elite players, and elite people in the world, don't just do the required. They do the unrequired on their own. That takes what it takes to make it to where you want to go. But you can't just say, okay, I'm going to be a special player and elite talent and a first-round draft pick by just doing what the standard is, just doing what the rule says that. Now, we can't be with them, but they can do a lot of things on their own. And I give our team a lot of credit because they are truly invested in the unrequired. And that takes, I think, a strong culture for that, especially when you're paying players.
Yeah,
there's so many more ways out and so many more excuses that people and players can use more than ever. And I'm really thankful and grateful because our players don't use those. They just continue to love what they do and pour into themselves and each other, and that's really hard to find. And that's one of the main reasons I love coaching at the University of Minnesota, because of the selection process of who fits us here at the University of Minnesota and our hyperculture.
You mentioned Danny Collins. He is now 1 year under his belt as defensive coordinator, and I think I'm okay sharing this now, but maybe it was 2 years ago, you were pretty close to pulling the trigger, making him the D coordinator when you brought Corey Heatherman in, and you thought, well, maybe not yet, but you told me in the hallway out here, the next time it happens, he's my defensive coordinator. And I'm obviously, you didn't say it publicly, and I wasn't going to share that. But I think it's okay.
You get so much information that's not public.
I mean, sometimes you got to just keep secrets, right? But I think it's okay now. You were set on him. So what have you seen from, and you felt he was ready, and
last year the defense statistically was pretty good, and there's going to be a rough game here, there's going to be a great game here. The defense won a couple of games. So what did you see from Danny, and what do you think of him now as he enters year 2 into this summer? What was his growth like in year 1 in that position?
I don't think anybody has grown more on our staff and people who have worked for me in the past more than Danny Collins has. I mean, he's coached every position on defense, especially in bowl games. He's truly committed to the process. I mean, he's been with me 14 years, and you've watched. You're really proud of him.
Yeah.
It's like a proud dad, but he's more like a brother, right? I mean, he's still young, but he's way too young, a lot older than to be my kid, right? So I don't want to insult his intelligence. But when I went back to hiring him, and I hired Heatherman before that, it wasn't anything with Danny. And that was the thing. I did talk to Danny that time about what he has to work on, but I said, you know what? We didn't have a great year prior to that defensively. And sometimes as a head coach, like, you want to hire within, but you also have to be able to get to your team and say, okay, we're going to go outside for this hire because maybe we didn't play as well defensively. And I want to play better. We got Corey in here and shot back to the top of the rankings, where we belong. And then once Corey left, that was an easy transition because, again, to the players, I don't want to lose that defense. When you don't play well defensively and somebody leaves, you're like, you know what? We didn't play that well defensively anyway. I can't wait to see what coach brings in.
Yeah.
There's just a different vibe that you have to feel as a head coach that you also have to – it's not a sell, but it's a believable hire. And you want all the guys to be in right when you hire them. And I don't care about the media piece or no offense to our fans, but I'm not listening to what our fans tell us. Yeah. But I get to make sure that when we do hire somebody, it's like, that makes a lot of sense, especially the players. And I thought when we hired Corey, it was like, that makes a lot of sense. And then when Corey left, we hired Danny, and that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. It doesn't mean you don't take a flyer here and there. Part of hiring Corey was a little bit of a flyer for us. But it worked out really well. And it all comes down to the players anyway and the ability to teach them. But I've seen so much growth in Danny, and just the confidence of doing it, the structure, the organization, the ability to be really creative in the process building up to what you see on game day. Not just the scheme, but how we get that part. When we're in these phases of the summer or the phases of the winter, he is by far one of the greatest teachers I've ever seen. And the way he can relate to players is unbelievable.
Yeah, the guys love him. You can see that for sure. And in talking with Danny on, I think it was a podcast or just an interview last year, he talked about, he was a little disappointed at that point that he didn't get the first time around, didn't get it. But he's like, it was such a blessing because Corey brought in some new ideas, and all of a sudden you got more data points now to draw from when it did become his defense. So now there's a little Joe Rossi, there's a little Corey Heatherman, there's a lot of Danny Collins and others, I'm sure, who influenced him. But he's like, if I wasn't introduced to some of what Corey maybe was a little more aggressive than others, and all of a sudden now you're stirring this recipe together. And so he said it was actually kind of he felt blessed that he got that year with Corey.
Everybody talks about somebody's experience, right? Experience doesn't equal just time. It equals experiences, different thoughts, different ideas, a wide range of that. So you can become yourself. That's part of the parenting deal, right?
Right.
You can. I like that our kids have multiple parents, and they get to see multiple ways to raise kids. And I like to think we're all aligned, but then they get to be the best version of themselves when they get a lot of time and a lot of experiencing different things. And I think Danny has that, from Ed Pinkham back at Western Michigan to even Rob Smith when we first got here, right? And then go into Joe Rossi and now Corey Heatherman, and he's an absorber, and he'll travel all over the country in the offseason and go study other people. We have an amazing staff that can bring in different ideas to him too, and he's a great listener. I think one of the greatest qualities of a leader is how well you listen, and he's so good at that, and he makes everybody feel that they're a massive part of the game plan and of the success. And I think that's really difficult to do, especially when maybe you don't have a lot of experience doing it. But he does have a lot of experience doing it because he's done it for a long time behind the scenes.
And what do you think a year, like everyone thinks they're ready, but then they get thrown into the fire. And I'm sure there were times in year one in anybody's walk of life, right, where you're like, oh, I didn't know this would be part of it. Now that he's got, again, exposed to more now, right, and that experience, how much can that help him now going into this fall?
Oh, it helps him tremendously. And he's one of the more creative coaches I've ever had. And I love that piece because I think this program's been built on creativity. And I think that he's got that. And the way he is in front of a team meeting, the way he is in front of his defense, I mean, it is truly like an exceptional teacher that you can't wait to go to class to learn from. And that's a very difficult trait, especially when the have to and want to can be different in football. Our guys have to and they can't wait to do it, which I think that's a special sauce there.
How much better of a coach is he because he's got Anthony Smith lining up on one side of the football?
Well, I think as coaches, the good thing is, especially guys who were here 14 years, and you went through the 1-11 year, and you're 0-10, and you're like, we are just terrible coaches. It takes really good players to be a really good coach.
Yeah.
I think I firmly believe that every coach should have to go 2-10, 1-11, or 0-12. I think it really forces you to look deep of what actually matters in football. And that's the players, the development of those players, the connectivity of that locker room, the coaching staff. It all comes together. It all matters. Some people always ask what matters, coaching more or players more. I do believe that it's a balance of both. It really is. And when you have a really special team and you have elite in both areas, and that includes support staff and everybody else around them.
Specific to Anthony Smith, how good of a year can he have?
Sky's the limit for the young man. And, it's great. We're out there at workouts yesterday, and he's winning every sprint. He's leading with his voice. Anthony is such an eclectic young man, and it's been fun to watch him come out of his shell. Plus, he's also a very emotional person. But to be able to direct that emotion into to positive leadership and channeling it in there has been one of his greatest growths he's had. He's pushing himself harder than he ever has. And for one guy who maybe doesn't have to, but he does. And when your best players are your hardest workers, you have a really strong culture. And when you look at those captains we have, and you come into a summer workout, Maverick's winning every race, and Anthony's winning every race, and they're the two most vocal guys, and Drake's coming to his own as a leader, and Darius is being more vocal. Jalen Smith is actually talking. It's fun to watch because and John Nestor, I mean, it's fun to see those guys take that next step. But there's not many people I've ever been around like Anthony Smith. And we are truly going to enjoy. And what I want our fan base to do is enjoy the 6 months you have with him, because he doesn't come around very often, because he leads our team in community service. He's the face of our defense. He's vocal in the leadership, and he would take his shirt off his back to help anybody in this community. It doesn't happen very often. And he could have went to so many other places for so much more money, and he stayed with the Gophers because of our community, the people he knows here. This is his second home. And I think that's really important to know in this world of transactional relationships. He has deep, embedded, transformational relationships here, and you can tell by the way he leads our team.
Drake Lindsay, on the other side of the football, probably had some opportunity if he wanted as well. He had a pretty darn good redshirt freshman season. Sky's the limit for him. He likes the culture. He's sticking around. How important is he this summer and working into the fall as well?
The culture is him. And I think there's a great picture of Drake and I on this balcony right outside my office when he was being recruited by us. And he looks like a little kid, tall little kid, but a little kid. His body's matured. His mind is matured. He's learned a lot from this offseason, right, as you can imagine, and he's a better person for it. And there's not many times you can talk about kids' choices or the choices they have, and it's a really hard consequence. But does it truly make them a better person? It does with Drake. And the accountability, the responsibility has gone through the roof. The connection with the team's gone through the roof. His focus has got even bigger on this football team and how to lead this football team. So again, you'd say everything happens for a reason. Everything has happened for a reason. And he's a special talent and a special person that none of us are perfect. But you talk about somebody who wants the pressure, wants the accountability, wants the expectation, has no problem taking accountability for his actions and being the leader of that. we have one of the best players and people we could possibly have leading our program.
More with Golden Gopher football coach PJ Fleck in a moment. First, let me talk about one of our great sponsors, OnX Hunt from OnX Maps. We're slowly leaking our way into summer as spring is nearing the rearview mirror. And somehow a lot of you are still finding time to get out into nature. Maybe it's hunting. Maybe you're chasing some turkeys or whatever else, scouting some deer stands. If you're going to squeeze in a hunt between games, you better know where to go. The OnX Hunt app shows you public land, private land boundaries, and access points all from your phone. So you can make the most of every window you've got this spring and summer. Download OnX Hunt wherever you find your apps, and you can start your free 7-day trial. Know where you stand with OnX Hunt from OnX Maps.
Hey Gopher fans, Bobby Durkin here from Minnesota Men's Basketball. In our program, championship culture is built on toughness, trust, and showing up every day to do the work. That's why I'm proud to support the True North family of companies. True North invests in elite teams, like the championship team at True North Mergers and Acquisitions, Minnesota's largest seller of companies. To learn more about True North and their family of independently owned companies, visit thetruenorthfamily.com. That's how champions are built.
PJ Fleck with us. Couple of just general football topics here. 2014 playoff. Your thoughts?
Yeah, everybody's got a thought. Everybody's going to have their opinion, and everybody's going to have their opinion based on their own agenda. Now, there could be coaches that are going to give their opinion on just they don't really care about the agenda because they're retiring and they're getting out of it. But most people are going to have an opinion based on, one, how it impacts college athletics, because we all want what's good for college athletics, but two, how it impacts their school. I am all for 2014.
Same, I agree.
I mean, every game towards the end of the year, let's say you're sitting there at 7-4, maybe let's say 8-3, and we're going to play the Axe game, and both teams are 8-3. Not only do you get the Axe, the winner of that game goes to the CFP.
Yeah.
At 9-3, probably 6-3 in the league. You got a chance to be maybe that 22nd, 23rd team getting in the college football playoff. Think about Huntington Bank Stadium or Camp Randall with that on the line. We know what it looks like on the line when we played Wisconsin for a chance to the Rose Bowl. Now, we didn't get that done, but we know what that environment was on College game day.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want more of that?
Yeah, I agree.
Like, it doesn't make any – there's a solution to the ending of conference championships, and people are talking about how do we get that money back. There's 12 extra teams getting to the CFP, and you're not going to lose the lackluster of all the other games. You're going to get home games with massive amounts of interest from every fan base. Think about it. The NFL, the last few weeks of the NFL, almost every fan base is still in it.
Yes.
You're still in it. Why wouldn't you want to create the interest and still in it for longer? I mean, I just
half
think
the Big Ten will be in it in November.
It makes it more exciting. Yeah. And look, we had 12, and I get how the structure is with 12. But there's an argument to be made. Were those truly the 12 best teams in the league from top to bottom? And I'm talking about the group of 5 teams that were in it. When you have 24, you can still keep those teams in it. But now maybe you have more of the best true Power 2, Power 4 teams in the country in the actual 2014 playoff. And right now, I just think when I looked at it, you kind of looked, were those really the top 12 best teams, top to bottom, when you looked at all the schedules? Because I think some of the ranking systems are being adjusted a little bit here to fit that. Where if you go to 24, you got a chance to really make it really exciting.
Yeah, and then you've got, one, the path gets harder for everybody, but there's more teams that have an opportunity. I agree. 5 years to play 5 for student athletes. Now, who knows with the way the NCAA gets sued, they can make that rule. Who knows how it'll turn out. But let's say that's the rule. It's get passed, and somehow it stays. Are you in favor of 5 to play 5?
I think it's one of the best rules created. I think it makes it, for us, like I can play freshmen now. As great as like Nate Cleveland played last year, and you're like, okay, he's got 4 more years. Yep. You know what I mean? You can sit there and say that. The freshmen, the redshirt freshmen, the medical redshirt freshmen, the COVID freshmen, like they're just, is it a 1-year player, 2-year player, 3-year player, 4-year player, 5-year player? Simple. And I don't have is he in 4 games? Okay, I can't play him this game. I really need to play him, but I don't want to hurt the kid. I don't want to hurt the team. I don't want to break his year. It's all that. It's all done. I don't have to worry about that anymore. Now, all these true freshmen, for the most part, I can play them when I want to play them. down by 50, up by 50. I can play them in different games. If we get to the point where it's a medical issue, I can throw them in there and not be penalized. And I'm a firm believer in you need to develop on the field too. And if I can start playing freshmen faster, you don't feel like a freshman next year. Now you're just a second-year player, right? Just like the NFL, there's a first-year player as a rookie, and then everybody else is second-year player, third-year player. But if you can get them that experience early, you really have 4 healthy years on top of that they have eligibility for. I think it's a brilliant rule. I think it really benefits the student athlete, and I think it helps the coaches. Rarely do we make rules that benefit both parties, and I think this does.
Yeah, and that's been talked about for years, and hopefully it finally comes to fruition. Last one, in spring ball, we were talking, you and I were talking in your office over at the football stadium. You'd like to maybe the spring calendar shift to more of an NFL style where you're not just 5 straight weeks of everything, maybe stretch it out. What would you like to see there?
Of course I would. I think the whole calendar, Grimmy, just needs to be – we need to start over. What we're doing is we're taking the same calendar and the same things that are that we think are the same in 2026 versus when I was playing, back in the early 2000s, late 1990s, right, that we have the same 15 spring practices. But our coaches weren't able to work with us when I played in January and February. Now we're able to be on the field with them in certain activities. So the acclimation period of spring ball, I get that piece. But they've already been acclimating for 2 months in the winter conditioning piece. Same thing with the training camp being 5.5 weeks. Some people have 6 weeks. But do we really need that long of a training camp when they're working out all summer with us, again, with the strength and conditioning? But they're doing football-like specific indie things with us all summer. So we keep this calendar the same. What I'd like to do in the spring is I'd like to cut it up. I don't care what the number is. The number out there being thrown around is 21, I think, right? Or it's 6 extra practices. I don't care what the number is. That's for somebody else way smarter than me to make that call. But I do want to have the ability to say, okay, let's say it was 15. We'll just use that because everybody knows you have 15 spring practices. Well, let me use 9 in March and April. I could use them how I want. And then in May and June, I can run 2 mini camps.
Like an NFL team.
Like an NFL team does. And then don't touch July. Keep July the way it is. But everybody has the freedom based on your academic calendar. Whether you're on trimesters, you're on semesters, you're on quarters, you can find time from January through June to fit 15 to 21 practices. And whatever number you pick, it still don't have to use all those.
Right.
And I think everybody's up in arms about what the number is. I don't care if somebody has 4 more practices than me. If I choose not to use those practices, just like our 15 practices, if I choose to do 12, that's my prerogative. I'm not going to sit there and say, that's not fair. They got 3 more than me.
Right.
I choose that. So I just want to have the freedom to put it where it fits, that benefits the University of Minnesota, our culture, our team, our players. Why shouldn't a coach be able to make those decisions? So I think that's what I'd like to see.
Well, that was fun. Thank you.
Yeah.
I like that. I like a 24-team playoff. I think 5 for 5, and let's get that calendar switch. That'll be our goal. And then you guys have fun in Paris and Croatia.
We will. I'll let you know. I'll take a picture of the final bill and send it to you.
Whew, I can't wait.
I think she's ready for this one. She's definitely ready. She's ready for not payback, but
yeah.
You told me you'd bring me back here. Now let's let it rip.
It is kind of fun, though. Here you are. Like, okay, ring up the bill.
Yeah. To a
Have
point.
what you want.
Yeah. I still know where I come from. I think that's the good thing about me. I still know where I come from.
Well, very good. We're glad you're here, and we appreciate you, as always, spending time with us.
Appreciate you. You look great, man. Row the boat, Sky and Go Gophers, and thanks for everybody for listening.
There he is, PJ Fleck, episode 224.
My thanks, as always, to Golden Gopher head football coach PJ Fleck for spending some time with me on the Go Gopher podcast. Always fun to spend time with a head coach and a great time to get an update on Gopher football. I hope you enjoyed hearing that chat as much as I enjoyed being a part of it. Episode number 224 is presented by Sunbelt Business Advisors and True North Mergers and Acquisitions. If you're buying or selling a business, visit sunbeltminnesota.com or tnma.com. Cub is a proud supporter of Gopher Athletics for over 20 years and a proud sponsor of the Go Gopher Podcast with Mike Grimm. Cub, bigger savings on the items you love. Shop happy. And OnX Hunt also sponsors our show. Happy hunting from OnX Maps. Again, I'd invite you to listen to past podcasts, and please right now click that subscribe or follow button to the Go Gopher Podcast. It's free to follow, free to subscribe, and free to listen at any time. And please share the link to the podcast with others so they can subscribe, follow, and listen as well. And if you enjoyed the podcast, give us some positive feedback on your social media channels. We'll talk again next week.
Know what the happiest bird is? Chicken. Cub fried chicken. Wait, let me rephrase that. Know what bird makes people happiest? Cub fried chicken. Crispy, crunchy, juicy, perfectly seasoned. It's the kind of chicken that disappears faster than you can say, 8-piece, please. Or, let's be real, maybe 12-piece. Because when it comes to fried chicken, more just means more happy. So if you're shopping chicken, shop Cub fried chicken and shop happy.